What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord, Dr. Professor, Dark Joker, with another edition of Where, Pick, and Dare, where I pick games for the various games that are occurring tomorrow. Whether it's football, baseball, basketball, basically whatever games I want to pick, I will pick them. With all that being said, on with the video. College men's basketball. Santa Clara Broncos versus Kentucky Wildcats. This is part of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Um, Santa Clara is a 27.9% chance to win. Kentucky is a 72.2% chance to win. This game is in St. Louis, Missouri, so not really home field advantage for either team. Santa Clara is a 10 seed, 26-8 record. Kentucky's a 7 seed, 21-13 record. For stats, Santa Clara's more points per game. Kentucky's more points against. Santa Clara's a higher field goal percentage. Kentucky is more rebounds per game. Santa Clara is more assists per game. Kentucky is more blocks per game. Santa Clara is more steals per game. These stats are pretty close. With the level of competition that Kentucky's gone against, and there's a reason they're a higher seed, even though they have more wins and less wins, more losses. I mean, there's a reason for that. Level of competition does matter. So I think Kentucky will beat Santa Clara tomorrow. Akron Zips versus Texas Tech Red Raiders. This is part of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Akron is an 18.1% chance to win. Texas Tech is an 82% chance to win. This game is in Tampa, Florida, so not really home field advantage for either team. So Akron's a 12 seed, 29-5 record. Texas Tech's a 5 seed, 22-10 record. For stats, Akron's more points per game, points against, higher field goal percentage, more rebounds per game, assists per game. Texas Tech has more blocks per game, and Akron has more steals per game. So these stats are pretty close. Yeah, it's definitely interesting that Texas Tech has a lot higher percent chance to win compared to Akron, despite Akron being favored in most of the stats. So obviously the level of competition's involved here. And that means, Texas Tech's probably more battle tested, and they're higher ranked than Akron for a reason. So I think Texas Tech will beat Akron tomorrow. Long Island Sharks versus Arizona Wildcats. This is part of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. So Long Island is a 1% chance to win, and Arizona is a 99% chance to win. This game is in San Diego, California. So while it's sure closer to Long Island University, it's not really home field advantage here. Arizona, I'm sure, has a bigger fan base. So Long Island is a 16 seed, 24-10 record. Arizona is a 1 seed, 32-2 record. For stats, Arizona has more points per game. Long Island has more points against. Arizona's a higher field goal percentage and has more rebounds per game, assists per game. Long Island has more blocks per game. Steals per game is even. The only stat that's really big difference here is points per game. That one's a 12.0 difference in favor of Arizona. So I think Arizona beats Long Island tomorrow. Wright State Raiders versus Virginia Cavaliers. This is part of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Wright State is a 7% chance to win. Virginia is a 93% chance to win. This game is at Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So not really home field advantage for either team. So Wright State's a 14 seed, 23-11 record. Virginia's a 3 seed, 29-5 record. For stats, Wright State has more points per game, points against, higher field goal percentage. Virginia has more rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, and Wright State has more steals per game. So yeah, these stats are pretty close. Yeah, so the stat that has the biggest difference is points against. That one's a 5.0 difference. The rest are pretty close. But with Virginia being as high ranked, these are the odds they have to win. More wins, less losses. I think Virginia will beat Wright State tomorrow. Tennessee State Tigers versus Iowa State Cyclones. Um, this is part of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Um, Tennessee State is a 1.7% chance to win. Iowa State is a 98.4% chance to win. This game is in St. Louis, Missouri. So Tennessee State's a 15 seed, 23-9 record. Iowa State's a 2 seed, 27-7 record. First stats, Iowa State has more points per game. Uh, Tennessee State has more points against. Iowa State's a higher field goal percentage. Tennessee State has more rebounds per game. Iowa State has more assists per game. Tennessee State has more blocks per game and steals per game. These stats are pretty close. Um, yeah, so with the odds that Iowa State has, this field goal advantage is not really mattering here. I like Iowa State with more wins, less losses, being ranked higher for a reason. I think Iowa State will beat Tennessee State tomorrow. Hofstra Pride versus Alabama Crimson Tide. This is for the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Hofstra is a 9.9% chance to win. Bama is a 90.1% chance to win. This game is in Tampa, Florida. Not really home field advantage for either team. I mean, well, unless you have some of the bandwagon Bama people down there. For the Nick Saban years in football. Yeah, Hofstra's a 13 seed, 24-10 record. Alabama's a 4 seed, 23-9 record. First stats, Bama has more points per game, points against, higher field goal percentage, more rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, and steals per game. The only stats that are really big differences here are points per game and points against. For points per game, that one's a 16.1 difference, and points against, it's a 17.4 difference. So cancels out with that reasonably. So I think so with all those and all the stats mostly being in Alabama's favor, I think Alabama will beat Hofstra tomorrow. Utah State Aggies versus Villanova Wildcats. This is part of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. So Utah State's a 51.8% chance to win, and Villanova is a 48.2% chance to win. This game's at San Diego, California. So Utah State's a 9 seed, 28-6 record. Villanova is an 8 seed, 24-8 record. First stats, Utah State is more points per game. No, Villanova is more points against. Utah State's a higher field goal percentage. And there's more rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, and steals per game. So, yeah, with most of the stats favoring Villanova, I think Utah's, most stats favor Utah State, against Villanova. So I think Utah State will beat Villanova tomorrow. Miami, Ohio Redhawks versus Tennessee Volunteers. This was part of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. So Miami, Ohio is an 11.1% chance to win. Tennessee is an 88.9% chance to win. This game is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Not really home field advantage here. So yeah, so this is some stats. Miami, Ohio has more points per game, points against, higher field goal percentage. Tennessee has more rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, and steals per game. The only stats that are really big, the only stats really big difference here is points per game. That one's a 11.1 difference in favor of Miami, Ohio. The rest are relatively close in comparison. So yeah, so in this is so with the odds Tennessee has and with the seeding they're in, compared to Miami, Ohio, I think Tennessee beats Miami, Ohio tomorrow. Iowa Hawkeyes versus Clemson Tigers. This is part of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Iowa is a 49.5% chance to win, and Clemson is a 50.5% chance to win. This game's in Tampa, Florida. It's not really home field advantage for either team. Iowa's a 9 seed, 21-12 record. Clemson's 8 seed, 24-10 record. For stats, Iowa's more points per game. Clemson's more points against. Iowa's a higher field goal percentage. Clemson has more rebounds per game. Iowa State has more blocks per game and steals per game. These stats are so these stats are pretty close. So there's not really home field advantage. So yeah, so this could be an interesting game. With the odds of which Clemson has of winning this, that means this guy means something. But I mean, not like a ton like some other ones, but it's gonna be interesting. I think Clemson will beat Iowa tomorrow. Northern Iowa Panthers versus St. John's Red Storm. This is part of the first round NCAA men's tournament. So Northern Iowa is a 14.9% chance to win. St. John's is a 85.1% chance to win. This game is in San Diego, California. It's not really a home game for either team. So Northern Iowa is a 12 seed, 23-12 record. St. John's is a 5 seed, 28-6 record. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting game. These are basically two nobody. So for stats, St. John's is more points per game, points against. Northern Iowa is a higher field goal percentage. St. John's is more rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, and steals per game. The only stat that's really big difference is the points per game. That one's a 11.7 difference in favor of St. John's. So with that, I think St. John's will beat Northern Iowa tomorrow. UCF Knights versus UCLA Bruins. This is part of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. So UCF is a 27.8% chance to win. UCLA is a 72.2% chance to win. This game is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, so not really home game for either team. So UCF is a 10 seed, 21-11 record. UCLA is a 7 seed, 23-11 record. For stats, UCF has more points per game, points against, so field goal percentage is higher. UCF has more rebounds per game. UCLA has more assists per game. UCF has more blocks per game. UCLA has more steals per game. These stats are pretty close. So yeah, with most of the stats favoring UCF, I think UCF will beat UCLA tomorrow. Queens Royals versus Purdue Boilermakers. This is part of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Um, so Queens has a 2.2% chance to win. Purdue is a 97.8% chance to win. So this game is in St. Louis, Missouri. So yeah, so the Queens is a 15 seed, 21-13 record. Purdue's a 2 seed, 27 LA record, 8 record. So yeah, so for stats, Queens has more points per game, points against. Purdue's a higher field goal percentage, has more rebounds per game, assists per game. Queens has more blocks per game and steals per game. The only stat that's really big there is points against. That one's a 12.8 difference in favor of Purdue. So with all that, I think Purdue will beat Queens tomorrow. Review A&M Panthers versus Florida Gators. This is part of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Prairie View is a 1% chance to win. Florida is a 99% chance to win. This game is in Tampa, Florida, so it's definitely a home field advantage for Florida. So Prairie View A&M is a 16 seed, 19-17 record. Florida is a 1 seed, 26-7 record. For stats, Florida has 4 points per game. Prairie Valley has more points against. Florida has higher field goal percentage, and there's more rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, and Prairie View has more steals per game. So yeah, so these stats are pretty close. Yeah, I mean the only stats really big difference is rebounds per game. That one's a 11.4 difference in favor of Florida. The other stats are pretty close. I mean, yeah, I mean the one with the biggest difference is points per game. That one's a 8.2 difference. So this could be a good game, but I think it's gonna be packed there with Florida fans. With all that stupid orange and blue. But I think Florida will beat Prairie View A&M tomorrow. California Baptist Lancers versus Kansas Jayhawks. This is part of the first round, the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Cal Baptist has a 7.4% chance to win. Kansas has a 92.6% chance to win. This game is in San Diego, California. Okay, so Cal Baptist is a 13 seed, 25-8 record. Kansas is a 4 seed, 23-10 record. First stats, yeah, so Kansas has 4 points per game, points against, higher field goal percentage. Cal Baptist has more rebounds per game. Kansas has more assists per game, blocks per game, steals per game is even. So these stats are pretty close. And yes, home field advantage is not gonna matter much. But a lot comes down to Kansas is ranked higher for a reason, despite having more losses, less wins. It's the reason they're ranked higher, and then Calvin is the reason they're given such high odds to win. So I think Kansas will beat California Baptist tomorrow. Furman Paladins versus UConn Huskies. This is part of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Furman has a 3.6% chance to win, and UConn's a 96.4% chance to win. This game's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So Yeah, so Furman's a 15 seed, 22-2 record. UConn is a 2 seed, 29-5 record. Yeah, so for stats, UConn has more points per game. Furman has more points against. Field goal percentage is even. Furman has more rebounds per game. UConn has more assists per game, blocks per game, and steals per game. These stats are pretty close. Now, I don't think home field advantage will matter here. It could be a good game, with how highly ranked UConn is, how many wins they have, how many losses they have. Like I think that will carry UConn through this game. So I think UConn will beat Furman tomorrow. Missouri Tigers versus Miami Hurricanes. This is part of the first round NCAA men's basketball tournament. Mizzou has a 45% chance to win. Miami's a 55% chance to win. This game is in St. Louis, Missouri, so it's definitely definitely a home field advantage for Missouri. So Mizzou is a 10 seed, 20-12 record. Miami's a 7 seed, 25-8 record. For stats, Miami has more points per game. Mizzou has more points against. Miami's a higher field goal percentage and has more rebounds per game, assists per game. Mizzou has more blocks per game, and Miami has more steals per game. So yeah, these stats are pretty close. So I think home field advantage is going to be a big thing here. So I think Missouri will beat Miami tomorrow. College women's basketball. Charleston Cougars versus Duke Blue Devils. This was part of the first round of the NCAA women's tournament. So Charleston's a 1.8% chance to win. Duke is a 98.2% chance to win. Yeah, so Charleston's 14 seed, 27-5 record. Duke is a 3 seed, 24-8 record. First stats, Charleston has more points per game. Duke has more points against. Has a higher field goal percentage. Has more rebounds per game. Duke has more blocks per game, and Charleston has more steals per game. These stats are pretty close. So I think home field advantage is going to be a big thing here. So I think Duke will beat Charleston tomorrow. UC San Diego Tritons versus TCU Horned Frogs. This is part of the first round, the NCAA women's tournament. So UC San Diego is a 1.5% chance to win. TCU is a 98.5% chance to win. This game's in Fort Worth, Texas, so it's definitely a home game for TCU. So UC San Diego's a 14 seed, 24-8 record. TCU is a 3 seed, 29-5 record. For stats, TCU has more points per game. UC San Diego has more assists, more points against. TCU has higher field goal percentage and has more rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, and UC San Diego has more steals per game. Ace stats are pretty close, so I think home field advantage is going to be a big thing here. So I think TCU will beat UC San Diego. Virginia Tech Hokies versus Oregon Ducks. This is part of the first round of the NCAA women's tournament. So Virginia Tech is a 34.4% chance to win. Oregon is a 65.5% chance to win. This is in Austin, Texas, so not really a home game for either team. So Virginia Tech's a 9 seed, 23-9 record. Oregon's an 8 seed, 22-12 record. For For stats, Oregon has more points per game, points against, higher field goal percentage. Virginia Tech has more rebounds per game. Oregon has more assists per game. Virginia Tech has more blocks per game, and Oregon has more steals per game. So yeah, so these stats are pretty close. Yeah, so with this, you'll be in Texas, home field advantage. You know, Oregon's ranked as high as it is for a reason. Even though it has less wins than Virginia Tech and more losses. So yeah, so then yeah, then, but I think Virginia Tech. I think that Virginia Tech will beat Oregon tomorrow. Nebraska Cornhuskers versus Baylor Bears. This is part of the first round of the NCAA women's basketball tournament. So Nebraska is a 55.3% chance to win. Baylor is a 44.7% chance to win. This is in Durham, North Carolina. So yeah, so not really home field advantage for either team. Nebraska is a 11 seed, 19-12 record. Baylor's a 6 seed, 24-8 record. So for stats, yeah, so Nebraska's more points per game, points against, higher field goal percentage. Baylor's more rebounds per game. Nebraska has more assists per game. Baylor's more blocks per game, and Nebraska's more steals per game. These stats are pretty pretty close. So not really home field advantage to go by. So I mean, with you know, looks like most of the stat seem to favor Baylor. Baylor's more wins, less losses. They're ranked higher than he's ranked higher than Nebraska. So I think Baylor will beat Nebraska. South Dakota State Jackrabbits versus Washington Huskies. This is part of the first round of the NCAA women's basketball tournament. So South Dakota State is a 33.8% chance to win. Washington is a 66.2% chance to win. Yeah, so San Diego State's an 11 seed, 27-6 record. Washington 6 seed, 21-10 record. First stats, yeah, so South Dakota State has more points per game. Washington has more points against. South Dakota State has a higher field goal percentage, has more rebounds per game, assists per game. Washington's more blocks per game. And South Dakota State has more steals per game. So this East stats are pretty close. And with this game being forward, it's not really home field advantage. So I think West Virginia will beat the Jackrabbit. State will beat South Dakota State. Murray State Racers versus Maryland Terrapins. This is part of the first round of the NCAA women's basketball tournament. So Murray State is a 5.7% chance to win. Maryland is a 94.3% chance to win. This game's in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Murray State's a 12 seed, 31-3 record. Maryland's 5 seed, 23-8 record. First stats, Murray State has more points per game, points against. Maryland has a higher field goal percentage and has more rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, and steals per game. These stats are pretty close. So I think, yeah. So with Murray State has won more games, lost less games, but Maryland's calling us tougher competition. That's why she's ranked, Maryland's ranked higher. So I think Maryland will beat Murray State tomorrow. Gonzaga Bulldogs versus Ole Miss Rebels. This is part of the first round of the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. Gonzaga has a 13.5% chance to win. Ole Miss is 86.5% chance to win. This game's in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Hey, so Gonzaga's a 12 seed, 24-9 record. Ole Miss is a 5 seed, 23-11 record. First stats: Ole Miss has more points per game. Gonzaga has more points against, has a higher field goal percentage, and has more rebounds per game, assists per game. Ole Miss has more blocks per game and steals per game. So these stats are pretty close. So so with Ole Miss being more Valerie, they've been more tested this year, so they're more prepared for this kind of tournament. So Ole Miss is ranked high for a reason, despite having less wins, more losses than Gonzaga. So I think Ole Miss will beat Gonzaga. Missouri State Bears versus Texas Longhorns. It's part of the first round of the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. Missouri State has a 1% chance to win. Texas a 99% chance to win. This is in Austin, Texas. So Montana State is a 16 seed, 23-12 record. Texas is a 1 seed, 31-3 record. First stats. Texas is 4 points per game. Missouri State is 4 points against. Texas is a higher field goal percentage. Missouri State has more rebounds per game. Texas is more assists per game, blocks per game, and steals per game. And the only stat that's really a big difference here is the points per game. That one's a 18.8 difference in favor of Texas. The others are pretty close. So so I think Texas will beat Missouri State tomorrow. Holy Cross Crusaders versus Michigan Wolverines. This is part of the first round of the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. Holy Cross has a 1% chance to win. Michigan has a 99% chance to win. This is this game's in our Michigan, so it's a definite home field advantage for Michigan. So Holy Cross is a 15 seed, 23-9 record. Michigan's a 2 seed, 25-6 record. For stats, Michigan has more points per game, points against, higher field goal percentage, more rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game is even, and Michigan has more steals per game. So the only stat that's really has a big difference is points per game. That one's a 22.3 difference in favor of Michigan. The rest are pretty close. So I think Michigan will beat Holy Cross tomorrow. Western Illinois Leathernecks versus North Carolina Tar Heels. This is part of the first round of the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. Western Illinois is a 2.4% chance to win, and North Carolina is a 97.6% chance to win. This is in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Western Illinois is a 13 seed, 26-5 record. North Carolina is a 4 seed, 26-7 record. First stats: Western Illinois is more points per game, points against. Field goal percentage is even. North Carolina is more rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, and steals per game. These stats are pretty close, so I think home field advantage is going to be a big thing here. So I think North Carolina will beat Western Illinois tomorrow. Jacksonville Dolphins versus LSU Tigers. This is part of the first round of the NCAA women's basketball tournament. So Jacksonville's a 1% chance to win. LSU is a 99% chance to win. This game's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, so it's a definite home field advantage for LSU. So Jacksonville's a 15 seed, 24-8 record. LSU is a 2 seed, 27-5 record. For that's LSU is more points per game. Jacksonville is more points against. LSU is a higher field goal percentage and has more rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, and steals per game. The only stats are a really big difference here are points per game, which is a 21.6 difference in favor of LSU, and the field goal percentage, which is a 10% difference in favor of LSU. The rest of the stats are pretty close. So I think LSU will beat Jacksonville tomorrow. Green Bay, Phoenix versus Minnesota Golden Gophers. So this is part of the first round NCAA women's basketball tournament. So Green Bay is a 2.4% chance to win. Minnesota is a 97.6% chance to win. This is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, so it's definitely a home game for Minnesota. So Green Bay's a 13 seed, 25-8 record. Minnesota's a 4 seed, 22-8 record. First stats: Minnesota's more points per game. Green Bay has more points against. Field goal percentage is even. Minnesota has more rebounds per game. Green Bay has more assists per game. Blocks per game is even. And Minnesota has more steals per game. These stats are pretty close, so I think home field advantage is going to be a big thing here. So I think Minnesota will beat Green Bay. Colorado State Rams versus Michigan State Spartans. This is part of the first round of the NCAA women's basketball tournament. Colorado State is a 7.3% chance to win, and Michigan State is a 92.7% chance to win. This game's in Norman, Oklahoma, so not really home field advantage for either team. So, yeah, so Colorado State is a 12 seed, 27-7 record. Michigan State's a 5 seed, 22-8 record. For stats, Michigan State has more points per game, points against, higher field goal percentage. Colorado State has more rebounds per game. Michigan State has more assists per game, blocks per game, and steals per game. The only stats a really big difference here are points per game. That one's a 16.5 difference in favor of Michigan State, and 11.0 and points against, which is an 11.0 difference in favor of Colorado State. So those, may cancel out within reasonable margin there, and the rest of the rest of the it's rest of the stats are pretty close. So so with all this, Michigan State's ranked higher for a reason, even though they have more losses, less wins compared to Colorado State. They've gone into a higher level competition. I think that's what Colorado State's doing. So I think Michigan State will beat Colorado State tomorrow. Tennessee Volunteers versus NC State Wolfpack. This is part of the first round of the NCAA women's tournament, basketball tournament. So Tennessee is a 55.5% chance to win, and NC State is a 44.5% chance to win. This is in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Tennessee's a 10 seed, 16-13 record. NC State's a 7 seed, 20-10 record. See for stats, NC State is more points per game. Tennessee is more points against. NC State is a higher field goal percentage and has more rebounds per game, assists per game. Tennessee is more blocks per game and steals per game. So most of the stats favor NC State. There's not really home field advantage to help like either team. NC State does have more wins and less losses. So I think NC State will beat Tennessee tomorrow. Villanova Wildcats versus Texas Tech Red Raiders. This is part of the first round of the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. Villanova is a 47.8% chance to win. Texas Tech is a 52.2% chance to win. This is, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, so not really home field advantage for either team, but maybe, more Texas Tech people there. So Villanova is a 10 seed, 25-7 record. Texas Tech's a 7 seed, 25-7 record. First stats, Texas Tech has more points per game. Villanova has more points against. Field goal percentage is even. Villanova has more rebounds per game, assists per game. Texas Tech has more blocks per game, and steals per game is even. These stats are pretty close. So, I think, with the odds Texas Tech has, beating them being ranked higher, all that, I think Texas Tech will beat Villanova tomorrow. Idaho Vandals versus Oklahoma Sooners. This is part of the first round of the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. Idaho is a 1.9% chance to win. Oklahoma is a 98.1% chance to win. This is at Norman, Oklahoma, so definitely a home field advantage for Oklahoma. Yeah, so Idaho's a 13 seed, 29-5 record. Oklahoma's a 4 seed, 24-7 record. For stats, Oklahoma has more points per game, points against, higher field goal percentage, more rebounds per game, assists per game, blocks per game, and steals per game. These stats are pretty close, so I think home field advantage is going to be a big thing here. So I think Oklahoma will beat Idaho tomorrow. NBA. Atlanta Hawks versus Houston Rockets. The Hawks have a 46.2% chance to win. The Rockets have a 53.8% chance to win. This is at Houston. For injuries, for the Hawks, Kuminga's out, and for the Rockets, Tate, Adams, and Van Vliet are out. For stats, Hawks have more points per game, points against. Field goal percentage is even. Rockets have more rebounds per game. Hawks have more assists per game. Rockets have more blocks per game, and Hawks have more steals per game. These stats are pretty close, so I think home field advantage is going to be a big thing here. So I think the Rockets will beat the Hawks tomorrow. Toronto Raptors versus Denver Nuggets. The Raptors have a 33.3% chance to win. The Nuggets have a 66.7% chance to win. This is at Denver. For injuries, for the Raptors, Murray Boyles is a game time decision and Hepburn's out. And for the Nuggets, Watson's out. For stats, the Nuggets have more points per game, points against, higher field goal percentage, more rebounds per game, Raptors have more assists per game, blocks per game, and steals per game. These stats are pretty close, so I think home field advantage is going to be a big thing here. So I think the Nuggets will beat the Raptors. College baseball. Wake Forest Demon Deacons versus Virginia Cavaliers. Uh, Wake Forest is 24 nation, 16-5 record. Virginia is 9 nation, 18-4 record. So yeah, not really a bunch of information nowhere about the pitchers for this game, but it looks like it could be a good game. So yeah, I think with what information I have, I think Virginia will beat Wake Forest. NC State Wolfpack versus Florida State Seminoles. NC State's 10 nation, 17-4 record. Florida State's 11 nation, 17-3 record. This is at Florida State. So, you know, two like really good teams. You know, this could be a really good game. You know, with this being in Tallahassee, I think Florida State will beat NC State tomorrow. Texas Longhorns versus Auburn Tigers. Texas is 2 nation, 18-2 record. Auburn's 5 nation, 18-2 record. This is at Auburn. So with this could be a really big series. You know, two top 5 SEC teams going against each other. Like, which is there's gonna happen this season stuff like that. Like really good games. So with this being at Auburn, I think Auburn will beat Texas. Georgia Bulldogs versus Texas A&M Aggies. Georgia is 7 nation, 18-4 record. A&M is 23 nation, 17-3 record. This is at Texas A&M. So this could be a big series. I mean, probably not as close as like the Texas Auburn one. This could still be a good series. I mean, two ranked SEC teams. This is generally going to be pretty good. So with this being at A&M, I think Texas A&M will beat Georgia tomorrow. And that's it for picks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my picks. Do you agree with them? Do you not? If you have different picks, you can put them in the comments. But other than that, please like, subscribe, and all that. Thank you for listening, and look forward to the next video.